Martin Lord. I'm with the Ontario Centres of Excellence as a Business Development Manager. On behalf of OCE, I welcome you to Mobile Innovation at Discovery. This is a session that's co-produced with the Mobile Institute. And I'd like to introduce you or welcome you to this theater session, which is titled Taking Ontario Mobile, an Action Plan for Leadership in the Mobile Revolution. And I'm hereby handing you over to your host, Mr. Michael O'Farrell of the Mobile Institute. Michael?
Thank you, Martin. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. That was just an inspiring lunch, and I really appreciate everybody getting here right after the lunch for this session. I also want to remind you that if you're tweeting today's session, please use the hashtag OCE Discovery. The use of smartphones and tablets continue to expand globally. This represents a growth opportunity in many Ontario companies developing applications for mobile devices. This panel will present how Ontario is positioned to be a leader in mobility and the positive impacts it can have in all aspects of our lives, including productivity, jobs, education, health, inclusion, and social and political engagement. I'd like to introduce you to our moderator for the session, Sara Diamond. And Sara is the President and Vice-Chancellor of OCAD University, Canada's University of the Imagination. While maintaining OCAD University's traditional strength in art and design, Sara has guided the university to become a leader in digital media, design research, and curriculum through the Digital Futures Initiative. The initiative involves new research in various aspects of where design and technology intersect and has led to a strong partnership between OCAD University and science and business and communities in general. Sara, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you, Michael. It's a real pleasure to be here, and it's been really wonderful to see the mobile stream as part of a wonderful Discovery event, so thanks for doing that. So it's going to be my great pleasure, first of all, to introduce you to our really star-studded panelists here. I'm going to introduce you, then I'm going to speak for a little while, and then they're going to share with you their points of view on the potential for mobile capacity in Ontario. And our first panelist is John Semple, who is the Chief of Surgery at Women's College Hospital. John is also Chair in Surgical Research for the Ontario chapter of the Canadian Breast Cancer Foundation and a Professor in the Department of Surgery at the University of Toronto. He has a special interest in converging disciplines and their potential to act as a novel research platform. I'm going to try and talk over that. As well as his work in breast cancer, John's research interests include advancing ambulatory surgical innovation, and that's what he's going to be speaking about today, and new models of care using appropriate and affordable mobile technology. Our second panelist, and we heard a little bit about him from the main stage at lunch, is John Baker, President and CEO of Desire to Learn. John founded Desire to Learn at the age of 22 while still a systems design engineering student at the University of Waterloo and has grown the company to over 700 employees. His ambitious goal is to transform the way the world learns, and the company currently has 800 clients and supports over 8 million learners in both education and the corporate sector across the globe. And thank you for joining us today, John. And our final panelist is Gary Schwartz, President and CEO of Impact Mobile. Gary has been named Mobile Commerce Evangelist of the Year for 2013. He's been at the front lines of the mobile industry for over a decade and is the author of 2 books, The Impulse Economy, Understanding Mobile Shopping, and Fast Shopper and Slow Store, a guide to courting and capturing the mobile consumer. Both books highlight the current state of the mobile commerce space and demonstrate the significant impact that the mobile revolution is having on retailers. So welcome, Gary. So great panelists, and I'm going to start out by providing you with an overview of Taking Ontario Mobile, which is the report that I had the pleasure of working on for the last year and a half, very recently launched. Now, the definition of mobile that we use for this report is that mobility is about the individual, not about the device. And in our research, we found that Ontarians and Canadians require and desire ubiquitous connectivity, personalized and context-aware services and content that links them and their activities and interests regardless of time and place. And this indeed is the strength of mobile. The research initiative was supported by our friends at the Ministry of Research and Innovation and also by a number of companies in the mobile space. And our goal was to really look at 5 sectors: learning, health, government services, entertainment, and commerce, and provide a blueprint for Ontario. If you're interested in the report, it is available online at www.takingontariomobile.ca. I do suggest you peruse it. It's very entertaining. We did, just for those of you interested in research methodology, we used a mixed methods approach, including lots of interviews with experts, surveys, primary research, and jurisdictional comparisons, and then built a series of scenarios. We found that Ontario is a center of activity for the mobile industry, with a cluster of application developers that are truly impressive, which has attracted global firms such as Google and Zynga, who are of course based in Waterloo, a great strength also in the Toronto area and in Ottawa. And we're well positioned to lead in mobile commerce and finance. You'll hear a bit about that from Gary today because of the strength of our finance industries. We're such a strong financial center, and our retail sector. We have excellent training in mobility and mobile skills, whether engineering or design, at both the college and university level. And we lead in mobile health applications. Again, you'll hear about this. And of course, in academic research, I'll show you some of the benchmarks there. And as we've heard throughout the days here at OCE Discovery, we're excellent collaborators in Ontario, and this is very much an interdisciplinary, intersectoral need. There's our Wordle. I loved seeing the Wordle during lunch from the minister. So here's our Wordle of some of the strengths in research in academia. And you can see that we have a real strength in Canada Research Chairs in mobility here. We have leading institutions. The strongest institutions are in Ontario in benchmarking internationally recognized research, and this great mix of companies in Ontario. Here's some examples. We also have been doing very well in patenting in Ontario compared to the rest of Canada. And you can see some challenges and also opportunities with BlackBerry. They're leading in patenting. And of course, we want them to stay strong and healthy. Of course, you can see that Nortel also was a leader in patents. And we want to keep BlackBerry here and healthy at home. There's some comparison between jurisdictions and our patent capability. And you can see us in relationship to the world. So we've got a lot of research strength here. You can also see that we've moved from 3G to 4G, so we're kind of keeping up with the rest of the world in terms of infrastructure, and that Ontario bears the majority of telecommunications companies in the wireless and mobile space here. We did a sister report, the Mobile Experience Innovation Center, that looked at SMEs and mobile enterprises and some of the strengths and challenges here. Suggest you look at that report as well if you're interested in sort of drilling down. I talked about the clusters that exist. That's a definite strength. We found that these are small companies, often smaller than 12 FTE, and their innovation is growing and very much in the game space and very much in a north-south market, so very much looking to the US as a market share. In looking at strengths and weaknesses, we found a lot of opportunity in the Indian market, the Brazilian market, the need for these companies to go out globally to the world, really. The importance of mobile commerce in terms of their ability to be strong leaders, and that there had been a lot of public policy support, such as the kind of tax climate in Ontario that was supporting these companies. Their weaknesses are, of course, competition, the draw to the US, the tendency to be really swallowed by American firms, and the need for ongoing public policy support and, frankly, venture. And then a big strength of Canada, of course, is its 3 large service providers. That's also a challenge because we have the highest data rates, the 3rd highest data rates in the world. And that cost of tariffs means that innovation and the cost of doing business remains challenging for not only these small companies, but people who will take up mobile applications and mobile services. Recommendations were to make sure that the next spectrum auctions continue to support, or in fact do support, the mobile sector. And we think that Ontario would do well in dedicating some of its venture funding that's come on stream to really supporting this incredibly dynamic group of companies in our province. We spoke with folks in our surveys about applications use. You'll get a kick out of this. Canadians, Ontarians love to look at applications about the weather. Is that a surprise? We found that there were measurable productivity gains in the use of mobile technologies in terms of people both working from home and saving time in their commutes. And then we looked at non-mobile companies and what their needs were and their needs from the sector. So we surveyed them, met with them, looked at their anticipated business uses of mobile, and it kind of splits between productivity software that they're very interested in, particularly large enterprises, and new ways of being able to serve their customer base through mobile services and mobile commerce. And we saw, smaller companies in particular saw the mobile turn as being truly transformative in terms of their business models. We found it was hard for them to find developers, so we see the need for lots of matchmaking there. Going to talk quickly about the sectors that we looked at and some of what we found. Mobile government is transformative. It has really 4 key components: government to citizen, government to business, government to employees, their own employees, and government to government that can create great productivity gains and also really provide better services to the citizens that governments are meant to serve, both at the provincial, very much to the municipal, and the federal level. So some of the solutions we saw were for Ontario to really integrate mobility into their efficiency planning, moving physical services and jumping over into mobile capacity, working with the private sector to outsource and provide better services to Ontarians, and looking at ways that they could create open data repositories that services, mobile services and applications could be built on top of, and then being quite activist in terms of federal regulatory policy, because it really affects Ontario's ability to build its business sector. We looked at inclusion and the challenges for inclusion, and mobility has without question proven to be a jump over set of technologies for inclusion in education, healthcare, and democracy within the developing world and the emerging world. And we felt very strongly in the report, and we found in the people we surveyed that people want access to mobility. And we feel that for many communities, Aboriginal, seniors, people on the edge, that we really need to take action in Ontario to make ourselves inclusive, and that there are great business gains in doing that in terms of the kinds of new services and healthcare and education, et cetera, that would be available. So solutions we saw were for the federal, provincial, and private sector forces to get together to develop an investment program to roll out high-speed mobile connectivity across Ontario, to be able to look at community-run services in Aboriginal communities. These have been very successful in terms of internet access, and these have material gains in terms of education and health. To look at the Rural Connections Broadband Program, which has been a really positive program in Ontario, and it has let communities invest in their own broadband access, and we see that, in fact, extending into the mobile space. And we also saw the use of white spaces. So this is something the CRTC has provided, which is that the wireless spectrum, the portion that's been vacated by analog television, has been made available, and we in Ontario can provide access to rural communities or low-income public housing so that people can use mobility in order to access the services that they need. Encouraging competition and service provision, that's a large conversation. We can kick into that in the Q&A. The idea of a tax rebate for mobile users below the poverty line. Brazil has done this in order to enable mobile take-up. And then Wi-Fi access through universities and colleges, for example. We're publicly funded. We can build a parameter and provide services to our communities. And then very important, making sure that we create accessibility standards for mobile devices, which can be a gateway for disabled people to the world of the internet. Moving on to mobile commerce, we found strong interest in the mobile wallet. You know, this is a year and a half ago that we did this survey, and that comfort and interest just simply continues to grow. And mobile commerce is both the ability to transact financial transactions using a mobile device and to buy and in fact to sell. And it's also the in-store use of mobile devices to deliver information and shopping and enhance the mobile shopping experience. You'll hear about this from Gary. Some solutions for mobile commerce and making mobile commerce more effective in Ontario is to ensure that we have excellent security here, educating developers and by practicing due diligence, self-regulation by the industry, ensuring that there's strong consumer protection legislation that allows us to have the appropriate privacy measures of opting in and opting out. And for banks and brands to ally to create m-commerce pilots. This has been very successful in Europe to really assist businesses and merchants to navigate the risk in adopting mobile commerce and to collaborate for ISPs and financial institutions to collaborate. There was an excellent panel yesterday looking at the finance industries and their move into providing mobile capacity, and it really is a collaborative venture between the banks, the credit cards, and the ISPs that are needed. And for government to play a role in piloting the mobile wallet and checkout. We looked at what consumers wanted in the post-secondary education space, and this is also very informative. So, access to their records and information about their learning experience, mobile games and educational products, and a better service environment around their path through post-secondary education. Of course, M-learning, and this is part of the incredible disintermediation happening currently, within post-secondary education. It's part of the move to the e-learning environment. John Baker, of course, is a leader in that space internationally, and we're fortunate to have him on the panel. You'll hear from him about this. But these are some of the things that M-learning provides, collaborative and individual learning, lifelong learning, adapting to the culture of young people who are mobile users in any case, and location-based learning. So the future of learning is not only in the classroom or studio or lab. It's very much, on location where you can access information in a just-in-time way. And M-learning is a tremendous opportunity for Ontario brands, universities like mine, to be able to reach a global market. We found that retention is enhanced by providing support and services to mobile learners. And we need to support and create a 21st century labor force with a mobile skill set. We moved on to look at mobile health, and you'll certainly hear about the capacity in mobile health as well from our panelists. And we found that people want to access their health records. They need help with managing their drug regimes. They need access to information. And mHealth is, in fact, a revolutionary change in the ability to move healthcare out of acute care downstream into the community and the home with appropriate support and help. There are many opportunities, from electronic records that follow the patient, trusted health information being in a cloud-based environment that can be pulled down just in time, and healthcare cards as part of the mobile wallet, and the ability to access expertise from remote locations using mobile devices. Of course, applications will be able to manage health traffic to our healthcare providers, and there's great coaching opportunities. And many applications that link the Internet of Things and mobile devices to our mobile environment and telephones and smartphones. So our solutions are to roll out system-wide mobile solutions. We've got great success in Ontario in piloting excellent applications. We need to make it system-wide. We need a self-regulating industry model so that the standards are interoperable. And we need to make sure that industry and government works together to create the right regulatory environment. And very important, to modify incentive models through OHIP to reward mobile health solutions that promote prevention and community care. And then finally, M-entertainment. There's huge opportunities for Ontario to build our powerful entertainment industries through N-Screen, adding mobile experiences to our other screen experiences. Social, local, and mobile, or SO-LO-MO, is really what mobile provides us with in the entertainment space. It's an extension channel for traditional media. It's a whole set of new marketplaces for advertising industries, which really fuel our entertainment sector. And we have a strong developer community here that bridges between content and technology, and that's where the future really is, and we need to be able to continue to support them. And of course, we've got a very strong application software environment that we've built here in Ontario. And of course, as HTML5 comes on stream, direct access to the mobile web will be very much part of screen-based technologies and experiences. We've got some great examples here in Ontario that have been successful worldwide. So some of the ways to support the growth and building of mobile entertainment is through export support programs to get our companies out and help associations to do this. It's got to be an international marketplace. The Canadian marketplace simply is not large enough, although we need to access it for our mobile companies. To make sure, again, that spectrum auction revenues are invested in the mobile and wireless sector. And the CRTC has created the Canadian Media Fund, and it has an experimental component to it that supports our mobile content industries. We need to grow that fund as mobility becomes more and more part of our entertainment present, not just our future. It's not really experimental. Support for venture capital funding for the application industries, and securing m-commerce and m-marketing solutions that are both robust and also secure. So some next steps that we saw as being really important as we look at the future of mobility here in Ontario and look at how to help our industries be truly competitive is the importance of an industry advisory committee that will work very closely across the ministerial jurisdictions in Ontario. As I said in the beginning, you know, mobility is really an extremely collaborative space. We really need to be able to get ministries like government services, research and innovation, economic development and trade, training colleges and universities around the same table, tourism, culture and sport as well, to talk about how to deploy this amazing opportunity. And I am happy to say that the report has received positive traction from the Ontario government, and they are looking at being able to move forward within this context. We're looking forward to meeting with deputy ministers in the near future. But that has to be an interface with industry. We have very powerful mobile sectors in Ontario, and we need to make sure that they're working together and working with government, because so many of these solutions require that public-private interface. Looking at the privacy and consumer protection issues together. So this is really, again, industry and government looking at how to make sure that Ontario's legislation is really cutting edge in 21st century and has the right level of protection without hamstringing industry in being able to move forward and provide us with solutions. And then looking at how to continue to work with non-mobile industries. So we saw that gap between industries that need to go mobile and access to the developer community. So ensuring that that gap is bridged, continuing to provide excellent training and building out training capacity here. And then, as I mentioned, ensuring that we have a say at the federal level. We do need to continue to look at the challenges in the cost of mobility in Canada if we're going to continue to be innovators. And then, of course, keeping our research and innovation ecosystem healthy. And that, in part, is about venture investment, and it's very much about government investment. So we had 10 areas of recommendations. Again, I encourage you to read the report, looking at an overall mobile policy framework, the ability to ensure that there was really equitable access for Ontarians, and then building a secure environment for technology so that we will use mobile capacity. And then, of course, the healthcare, PSC, and K-12 initiatives, ensuring that government services move into the mobile space, and then using mobility to really enhance our productivity as members of the Ontario labor force, ensuring that we've got good investment in job development. And finally, this is just a great opportunity for citizen engagement and inclusion. That's our research team. It was a really exciting collaboration in its own right to develop the report. between a number of really strong university researchers and private sector researchers. And thank you very much. There'll be an opportunity for conversation at the end of the presentations by my wonderful panelists. So we're going to start the panel now, and we're going to ask John if you will begin with your presentation. Sure.
My name is John Semple. I'm Chief of Surgery at Women's College Hospital and also associated with the enterprise QOC Health, which owns the IP for the mobile technology platform, which I'm going to discuss as an example. One of the key findings from the Taking Ontario Mobile was, in fact, looking for mobility to help provide home services for the growing population of not just seniors, but a number of patients at home. And that's an area that in healthcare we're very much interested in, is the aspect of transitions from the institution to the home. The other aspect is that mobility can be an important lever to enable the movement of medical support from location such as the hospitals to the home, to the community, but also looking at shifting it from acute care to chronic care. And they say that in chronic care, for instance, in terms of the actual healthcare budget, it's 1 to 5% of all patients actually take up to 50% of the budget. So it's a significant aspect and something that we're quite concerned about looking at. And there is about 17,000 healthcare apps actually being available in Ontario at the moment. And one of the problems we find is that a lot of these are veer towards activity or sort of health lifestyle rather than actually being a solution for a healthcare problem. And one of the things that we ran into at Women's College Hospital, which is now totally ambulatory as a new model of healthcare, so we actually have no inpatient beds. And so we measure length of stay in hours as opposed to days. So we still do fairly complex surgery, and we were actually able to take cases that are currently in the CIHI data as an average length of stay in other hospitals up to 6 days, and we have that down to 18 hours. And so, and there's a major savings there. But what we realize is that, yeah, we're pretty good at getting those patients out of hospital, and they're comfortable, and it's safe surgery, but self-care at home is rather daunting, and we didn't actually know much about that patient experience while those patients were at home. In fact, that's why we used to keep people in hospital, was so we could actually watch them recover in that first period of time. So that first 30 days post-operative is when everything happens in surgery. All the complications, all the returns to visit, return visits, all the readmissions, and a lot of other things all happen in that period of time. So what we did, we wanted to look at a form of technology, and we wanted to put the patient at the center of that technology and use it to extend, coordinate, improve post-operative quality recovery. We wanted it easy to use in terms of the interface. We wanted an age range from pediatric through senior, and we wanted to be able to translate it into any language, including First Nation. It had to have a robust confidentiality platform. We also wanted telemetry so we could measure other aspects of physiology at the same time with the Bluetooth interface, but also to build in metrics, efficiency, cost savings, and safety aspects as we went along. So at Women's College Hospital, we carried out this pilot, 60 patients, some of them orthopedic and some of them breast reconstruction. We focused on the first 30 days recovery, and the patients were from all over Southern Ontario. And we loaned them a smartphone, which was deployed at the time of discharge, with a quality of recovery scale loaded onto this. And we asked the patients to take a picture of the surgical incision each day on that basis. This is not real time, it's stored forward and was sent to a cloud server and then available on a tablet for me later on. I'll show you what that looked like. We did have some help with this. Samsung provided the devices for us in a managed device. Rogers supplied the airtime, and Tenzing supplied the secure cloud server. So this is what our interface looked like. On your left, you can see that there's a Ligard scale with a touchscreen interface asking the quality of recovery indicators. We also had pain scales with an analog scales. And this is what the actual provider tablet looked like when I looked at this. You can see that there's those orange flags, so patients that were answering in an abnormal or an extreme sense, they bounced to the top, so I could look at those immediately. And this is what, if I tapped on one of those patients, this is what I saw. And across the top, you can see there's a series of pictures. This is a patient with breast reconstruction, and also the indicators underneath. And one of the unexpected things that we found about this was that initially we felt that the virtual care was going to be a discounted version of reality, but in fact it was an augmented, because we'd never actually seen those incisions lined up like that. Even when we had those patients in hospital, we didn't look at that incision the same way we looked at it here. And there were a number of things that happened along the way where we actually picked up infections that we thought perhaps the patient didn't even know about it. And so we were able to sort of intervene on complications before they actually started. And we could also look at the indicators, certain things that we were following, like the nausea or the pain control. We could actually profile these over those 30 days. So this was brand new data. We really knew before this nothing about that patient experience. We're also looking at aspects of transitions from elderly patients to the home, and this is through the Change Foundation PATH project, which is happening in the Eastern Lynn. And we wanted to put the patient at the center again, but also we used the patient in terms of a co-design of the interface, which we feel is very important. We're now working in psychiatry so as decision aid tools, and you can see this is in terms of the actual medications that they're taking. And also in terms of depression scales, these analog scales or these sliding scales can be used as a type of indicator to find out where the patient sits, so that even as something as simple as I feel comfortable at home, I need to go to the hospital at the other side of that is something that seems horrifically simplistic, but if you're monitoring these patients, you can intensify your resources to those patients that are trending towards feeling uncomfortable at home. Privacy and security is obviously pretty important, and it has to be encrypted at all levels. The photographs can't sit in the gallery section of your smartphone along with the dog and the grandmother. These are embedded in a file, which is also encrypted inside the phone, and they can be wiped clean remotely. So the data from this was actually new data, whereas before we'd had maybe one phone call in that first 30 days, we now have 450 points of new data, which we can look at individually, or we can look at in an aggregate sense. We can also back this up, so integrating the data to the care providers is very important. So this can actually act as a digital spine, in fact, for the actual coordination of healthcare providers in the community with the patient at the center. So this can be bounced to CCAC, physio, primary care, and we can also have a social media aspect of this as we go along. So the challenges, I think, as brought out, is how does one know which apps to invest in? If you're a hospital, how do you know that? And so these are, how do you know which ones to purchase? So there's so many out there, we really have no ability to validate which ones are right. Do hospitals actually have money to pay for this? And most hospitals are just struggling to keep above into the black if they're there. So mobility can be an important lever to enable the connectivity of all these medical providers as we go along, and also remote monitoring. As at the healthcare, we look at the GTA primarily, but there are many citizens of Canada that live far away from these healthcare centers and have to be looked at as well. So I think the opportunities to finish off here, and this is Will Falk's idea of having a health app formulary, which would be some way of people finding out how valid are these apps as an investment. And so these would be posted somewhere, then there'd be an audit or a third-party validation that would allow either a Michelin rating for these types of apps that can be looked at where hospitals actually know what they're going to get into. Incentive to be efficient, so I think that these apps have to demonstrate efficiencies and cost savings over and above their actual cost of deployment. Remote monitoring we talked about, and I think transitions from hospital to home, that's going to be an area that is going to be key for the future. And I think that if you're designing for these types of programs, I think it has to be more than just a hard shell app. It has to be adaptable. I think that the skills for a mobile designer these days would be a deeper understanding of the problem and be a solution, not so much just a toy that actually is that looks good on a phone. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John Semple. I think that's a very exciting glimpse into a future world for Ontario. And John Baker, will you please come and speak with us?
Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Sarah. Great talks. It's no secret that mobile's transforming a number of different industries. So if you look at today, you can snap a photo, automatically sell whatever you're snapping a photo on eBay, whether it's yours or somebody else's maybe. You could listen to music, you can check your maps, you can get directions to all kinds of different resources. But in education, that mobility has been missing. So if you look at students, they're not as connected as they should be, they're not able to access the resources they need, and it's having an impact on the educational experience. What we're trying to do is build out a whole suite of technology that really unlocks that potential of mobility in the learning space. So we're really designing all kinds of technology to support both the learning experience, bringing the right resources to the students at the right time to give them the right knowledge, inspiration, experience to be able to help them progress through their educational journey as good as they possibly can. As we've gone through the development of the technology, we've gone from, in the early days, our first full-time hire, if you can believe this, was a mobile hire, even though that was in 99, beginning of 2000. You're doing Palm Pilot development back in those days. That was a challenge, and trying to get the adoption wasn't quite there for the educational experience. Then we moved on to the BlackBerry in 2004, 2005 timeframe, and now obviously moved on to all kinds of other different platforms. What we're seeing right now is a whole bunch of things coming together in the educational space that's allowing us to really have a bigger impact. You're seeing the devices now with market penetration numbers which support the actual development of these applications versus in the past, it was really for just the administration or just the rare user. You're seeing access to wireless, you're seeing access to the mobile networks reaching out not only into the schools, but out into the community, so you can create new types of learning experiences. So one of the big things that we've been trying to do is look at learning from a different perspective. So instead of thinking about learning as just simply consuming the learning experience, we're really trying to turn students into producers. So the idea of being able to capture, share, document, reflect on your learning experiences is a very big part of that. And the mobility associated with whether it's a smartphone or a tablet or some other type of device, all of a sudden enables you to flip that whole paradigm from just simply consuming a mobile learning experience where you're watching a professor do a talk or being able to download the right content or right resources, to now being able to take pictures, take videos, capture experiences, go into hospitals doing practicums as nurses, reflect on the experiences, share that back with your colleagues, and all of a sudden open up education to the whole world around you versus just what's happening in the classroom experience. We're seeing really interesting applications of this, everyone from large tour companies like EF Tours, which now provides that type of mobile through what we call an e-portfolio application, whereas the students are going around, they're taking photos of, obviously this, I don't know how this counts as schoolwork, but they take photos of like the big stadium in Rome, they take a photo of some plants for a horticultural course, they reflect on the experience, and they're tying it back to that educational journey that they're experiencing in the classroom. So again, looking at new ways of thinking about the learning experience capturing the power of the technology that's there and the mobility access and being able to bring that to bear. There's a lot of challenges in building out applications from a learning perspective. So there's the challenge for the institutions on, do they pay for all these devices? So do they buy a tablet for every kid? We're seeing bids like that right now where, in LA, for example, they put out $1 billion bid for devices. And the learning thing was, they're looking at doing that next, which is maybe having a platform that would actually supply learning on those devices. Or do we enable a whole range of devices through bring your own device to school? You got challenges in cities like New York where, I don't know if you know this, there's a big opportunity for vendors where they show up at school, you check your phone for $1 because you're not allowed to bring your phone into the school. You come back out at recess and you check your phone for messages and you go back in. There's a few challenges with that. Every now and then a vendor gets, some thieves take all the phones, but we need to really think about how policies and some of these things impact the educational experience, because those are powerful computers. Those have the ability for us to tap into a world of knowledge and experience and be able to leverage those devices in unique ways in the classrooms, to do experiments, to watch videos, to be able to interact, to share those experiences, and really create a new way of collaborating and diving into that learning journey. There's a few other big trends. So one of the other ones that we're really focused on right now is around the shift from being able to do a print textbook to now being completely digital. So looking at tablets or smartphones or other types of devices, being able to shift that old print model to a completely digital experience. There's spots like Korea that have set the goal for 2 years from now of being all digital. No more print for textbooks. The US Department of Education set the goal for doing that for 2017. Just a couple years later, there's not really been a lot of movement on it. So we're really zooming in on that particular aspect as well. And at the same time, it also, just like in the healthcare space, it provides an opportunity to augment that experience. So instead of every kid getting the exact same textbook, why not have it being adaptive to that student? So if they're really struggling with certain key concepts, what other resources exist out there? What other learning experiences could that are linked to that particular outcome they're trying to achieve be pulled in automatically and downloaded for both online and offline experiences? How do they capture and share the reflections and the notes and the experiences that they have reading those resources or participating in them and share them back? These are just a few of the challenges that we're tackling as we build out this technology. Another big area that we're really focused on is building out a platform for the schools, the universities, the hospitals, the companies that we work with, to really enable them to do their own app development. So the idea of, I'm not sure if you're aware, but only about 1 in 10 universities have a mobile app. And if you looked at the actual quality of that mobile app, I'd say you'd be happy with 1 in 10 of those mobile app experiences. So there's a huge wave of students that are coming into the system. I think there's probably going to see a flip, whether it's going to be this year or next year or the year after, where more than half the access to the learning experiences are going to be through mobile. And when I say mobile, I don't mean laptops. I mean phones, tablets, other types of devices. And the schools and the universities and the colleges are just not quite ready for the adoption of that. Why we think developing a platform is important, open sourcing the software development kit, sparking all kinds of competitions. Like, for example, we did an Edge challenge last year where we gave out $100,000 in prizes thanks to a bunch of sponsors, is to really spark that creativity, not just in terms of our developers building out these applications, but to enable the entire community to develop on top of that platform. The way we've always looked at learning, whether it's through the web or through the mobile experience, is that we want to create a system where not only can you actually use the platform for learning, but you can actually build new types of learning experiences, build new games, build new simulations. Look at, like, for example, what Princess Margaret's doing with their cancer survivorship program, where they're leveraging this technology to track cancer survivors, as they go back home, and share their learning experiences with other cancer survivors. Being able to tap into a whole diversity of ideas and experiences, and being able to pull that together is going to be very critical for us to be successful in Ontario. And on that point, I'm going to just wrap up with, I think we have an opportunity here with the great companies that are in the country, the great companies that are here locally, to really be able to come together to go faster in this market. us all working independently to get to where we're trying to go is not going to be as effective as us coming together to really push the needle much faster and much further. There's a lot to be done. Hopefully we can work together to achieve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John Baker. And now, Gary Schwartz.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks. So, hi. So we're going to be talking about mobile commerce. Obviously, Sarah went through some of the findings in the report. And mobile commerce is not a new topic for Ontario. We have been very successful in mobile commerce for over a decade. I mean, Dave Farnes back there chatting. Hi, Dave. Worked with me at CWTA in putting together standards to allow the phone to bill to your carrier, right? So you could do impulse purchases with ringtones, with content services, to buy game credits and things like that in the digital and the virtual world. And Ontario and the rest of the country spend millions of dollars through their phone to buy those services. So mobile commerce is not new. What is now a topic is how do we take it from digital goods and virtual goods into the real world and into the corner store, right? And so obviously the mobile wallet is in flux, and the question is how Ontario can take a leadership position here and then expand that nationally and potentially in many ways expand that globally. We have an opportunity to do that if we are proactive. And the challenge really, when you take it out of the digital content realm, the ringtones, and you take it out of the virtual content realm, tickets, and you now want to move into a complex ecosystem such as a store, right? Then we're much more challenged because you can't really do things in a simplistic way anymore. There are tons of stakeholders that you have to work with to make this happen. And so, in a situation where you're working with a store, for example, a physical store, you have layers and layers of stakeholders that all need to sing kumbaya to make this happen. And there's a huge opportunity for us to take the bull by the horns to make this happen in Ontario. And Ontario and Canada is far ahead in positioning themselves for mobile commerce than our brethren south of the border, right? And so because of the way that we deal with POS, because the way that we deal with cards and pin and chip. So there is an opportunity to really take this complex ecosystem and make it into something that really can perform. And I want to talk about George, because this is a big part of what we need to deal with in commerce. I know you probably know George Costanza, you're my generation. Yeah, I know. So the reason George is here is that Google sees that big wallet, right, with all its things, and it wants to co-opt all that content into its digital wallet. And that's the bigger part of this conversation. When we're talking about mobile commerce, we're not just talking about payment per se. We're talking about all the things that involve that relationship with the consumer and driving them into an engagement around the things that they want to buy, and then driving them to conversion around the things that they want to buy. And so, payment innovation, as we discussed in the report, is little to do with payment in and of itself. Obviously, that's a huge pillar. That's the end of the story. But it's also to do about building a relationship, trust, and a data relationship with that consumer, so you can target that consumer with things that they want so that they will drive into your stores, whether those stores be in bricks and mortar or into the cloud. And so mobile is something that brings lots of stakeholders together. In the US, for example, there's the merchant customer exchange, which lots of retailers get together and say, hey, we want to have a relationship with the consumer. We want to own that data. So what's going to happen in Ontario is you're going to have consortiums that need to get together, work together to make commerce happen. And the government plays a huge role in making sure that the standards are in place, the trust layer is in place, so that these parties can start a trust relationship with the consumer. I think we're too siloed in thinking about mobile, and when we talk about mobile, it's not just the small device. It's the larger devices, the Kindle Fires, all these connected devices that are part of the mobile ecosystem. These are the different points of your day that you buy stuff. even through to the TV set and how it's set up as a digital device, obviously Google Glasses and then the public POS. These are all part of the ecosystem we need to deal with in Ontario and get all these guys to work together. And it's not just about, and people think about this a lot, it's just not about optimizing the screen for mobile. It's not just saying, oh, gee, I need to have, I'm sure I like the YouTube example because, you can set it up so that it's for a mobile phone, for a tablet, for a desktop, and for a TV. That's important so that you can navigate your banking app fluidly on all your screens. But it's more than that. It's not just optimizing for mobile, it's understanding the Ontario consumer and where they move throughout the day, and that they wake up with a phone, and they wake up with they may move then to a tablet, and they may move to a PC, and that's part of their day. And we need to understand that narrative, and we have to optimize it so that we can intersect with that consumer right through the day. And we know that Ontarians, use multiple devices, not just the mobile phone. They use multiple devices to accomplish one task over time, to purchase, right? And so the stores in Ontario, the walls have become porous. And for us to really take advantage of this point in time where the internet cloud has come right down into the malls, it's a great opportunity for Ontario to take the lead and understand how the store is not the traditional, big box anymore. And cloud is now here at home, on the couch, right? So you have two-fisted couch commerce, right? With larger mobile devices, right? And then we call this immersive commerce. And then you have impulse commerce, where, the face of our stores may be changing, and the physical products in our stores may be virtual products that we can tap on and purchase in the cloud. And this is more one-fisted impulse commerce. And there are opportunities for us to infuse commerce into our media. Here's a billboard. This is a media buy on a bus shelter. We can make it interactive through NFC. We can make it interactive so the public screens interface with personal screens. Ontario is a media, center where we have innovation all the way from, our Loblaws on one side, to Cadillac Fairview on the other. We have an opportunity to take the leadership role in making sure that we are not disintermediated again. Right? That we're not just disintermediated again by being, sitting back and letting somebody else eat our lunch, in the cloud. We need to make sure that the Amazons of the world don't just come in again cross-border and disintermediate what we do. And so, the face of retail is changing. Obviously, Best Buy and other stores are changing the way that they interact with the consumer. And if we don't take a leadership role in bringing m-commerce seamlessly into those stores, making that fluidity, the malls are going to become lonely places, because these are the entertainment complexes of Ontario, right? We go shopping, we spend money in order to be entertained, to engage with the things that we love, right? And we have to make sure that that's part of the experience. And so, to end this, I just wanted to give you a few initialisms. The CIO was the guy that used to be the one who was to deal with all this stuff. The reality is that's changed. Mobile makes for strange bedfellows, and you've got the CMO now working with the CIO, and then you have folk that are trying to bridge the gap, because mobile's become horizontal, right, across the wallet. And so you have the chief digital officer trying to work, through organizations like Loblaws, like Cadillac Fairview, all the stakeholders in the banks, they have chief innovation officers, and so the CDO, the chief digital officer, is pretty much the chief disruption officer. And that's somebody that needs to play a role in herding the cats, getting all that complex ecosystem to work together to make Ontario a leader. And in order to do that, everybody has to play a role. I think the biggest role that the biggest stakeholders in the process is the government, to make sure that there's a trust factor, that there's regulations, so the consumer can feel that they can enter this with confidence. So just some thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pretty inspiring stuff. We have some time for questions, for a couple of questions from the audience. I'm hoping that people will step up. We've got mics over there. And it's a great opportunity to talk to 3 leaders in this field or to ask me about the report. And if you don't ask questions, I will. So, I see somebody en route. Fantastic. And can you identify yourself?
My name is Brian Hendry, and I'm an advisor with the Mobile Institute. I find all this mobile stuff to be fabulous, but specifically in like the mobile commerce side of things, it always seems to revolve around the big brands. So we see what Best Buy and so on is doing, and I'm wondering in terms of in Ontario and mobile, what might be happening for, my dry cleaner is one location, 2 guys. I'd love to know whether I've got to rush to the dry cleaners to get whether my shirts are ready today or not. But it's 2 guys. They don't have $250,000 or whatever to put in a mobile solution. So I'm interested to hear what's happening kind of at that grassroots
so for the
small
SME, that's
SME
great,
level.
because there's so many SMEs in Canada and Ontario. So Gary, do you want to pick this up?
Well, I want to show you this device, right? This is a $12 fake Nokia phone. And this device, which is a little bit more expensive. But what really comes down to is that in order to drive commerce at that level, this is a relationship device. This is a relationship device. And there's nothing that really prohibits a hyper-local service from engaging with their customer and getting an opt-in, getting, again, that circle of trust going so that you can send them messages, whether that be through Twitter, whether that be through some SMS with a shared short code. The bottom line is that mobile is all about relationship building. It's from a person-to-person basis. It's about relationship building. That's how we manage our circle of trust, our friends, those 10 friends that we hook up with. And it's about managing our loyalists, whether that be for Loblaws or the corner grocery store. And if we can manage our loyalists, we will drive more basket size. I mean, that's more tonnage. And so I don't think the technology should get in the way. And sometimes we think of this, which is, 3,000 times faster than the computer that sent the first rocket to the moon, right? That's pretty fast. I don't think you need to get fixated with the speed and the power of these things. I think you need to focus on what can it do for you now based on core functionality, which is communications and engagement. It doesn't have to be NFC tap to make it work.
Yeah, I think what you're describing is the use of SMS messaging, which is still a fundamental basic tool. And just anecdotally, it's interesting that in Brazil, and I mentioned the tax relief that people below the poverty level were given in Brazil. One of the reasons that the Brazilian government did this was to ensure that there was business opportunities that developed in the favelas, which are the most impoverished communities in Brazil, and they saw a flourishing of very small service-based companies, carpenters, et cetera, able to communicate with their immediate vicinity, and suddenly there was a cash economy based on the use of the mobile device for mobile commerce. So I just want to really reinforce Gary's point, which is that we've got to really migrate Canadian businesses into the online mobile space. Next question.
When developing mobile applications, especially when you're sending information from one user to another, like especially in e-health situations, how did you overcome the challenges with privacy policies in different regions? Did you really only focus on privacy policy in the Ontario region, or how did you overcome the challenges when moving from region to region to region and developing a core product?
Great question, John.
Yeah, it's a good question. There are certain HIPAA and FIPA sort of regulations that we adhere to. There's also HL7 sort of regulations and the hospital. So those are applied to security systems within the hospital. So we complied with the security aspects within the hospital, but we also added encryption layers on top of that. And we also, for this particular device, we had a lockdown SIM card, and we also are developing our own VPN with Rogers, which tunnels the information. The other thing is that across Canada, there are different regulations and rules or guidelines or laws, in fact, for where if you're using a cloud server for healthcare data, whether it has to reside on Canadian soil or on American soil. And as you know, a lot of the Amazon servers are sitting in Virginia somewhere, and so you have to be careful. In fact, there's I know for a fact that there's a number of issues out there now with cloud servers and people sort of typing in their name and finding their medical results coming up on Google from what they thought was a secure cloud server. So I think that you have to make sure that the types of programs you're dealing with have the security and have the encryption levels and the validation that's in fact. So I think that, and I think that's an extreme example, but those are the regulations, and I think we know that the privacy commissioner in Ontario, in fact, they don't want to make security a hindrance to innovation. They make that very clear. So I think that they basically say, go with it and we'll deal with the security as it is. The security guidelines are very clear, and with the modern technology, they're easy to adhere to.
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember that there's 17,000 mobile applications, as John said, that are being used by Ontarians right now in the broader healthcare space. So all of that data, and much of that is outside of the formal healthcare system. So we're already producing a huge amount of data. So policy in terms of security is very important, but it's also very important for us to be able to, with government and industry, link the informal healthcare environment that's growing and the formal healthcare system so that your practitioners can access that informal data, which is often about how you're practicing self-care on a daily basis. Next question.
Hi, Steve McBride from Weaver Apps. What Gary was saying about the silos is, I couldn't agree more on it's kind of hard to help small and medium-sized businesses, and then you get down to all these stakeholders. Who is going to take that by the horns and make the standards, or is it going to be the government, or is it going to be the private sector?
Well, I think the big challenge is that there's, at this point, everybody's, circling, trying to understand who's going to be the owner of one of the wallets, right? There are going to be a few wallets out there in different formats. And so, to be honest, there's probably more noise than actual business going on right now because people are positioning themselves, right? Consortiums are positioning themselves. So in this noise, now's the time to get those stakeholders to into one room so that you can basically, understand where one, where one can hand off to the other. The big issue is the elephant in the room is the big data. Like if the story is not about payment in and of itself, which most wallet owners will clearly admit, then it's who owns the data. And really that becomes difficult to sing Kumbaya because if I'm, if essentially I'm a retailer and I'm working with you and you're not sharing that data with me, then I don't know if I want to do a secret handshake with you. So I think that's the big challenge, and that's the challenge globally. I think where we can play a role is to understand how stakeholders can all benefit, and you need somebody who's outside of the melee. And I think that's where government can play a role in making sure that stakeholders are at least at the table talking.
So thank you very much. I'm sorry, we're out of time for questions. I'm going to do, but grab them after, grab me after. I'm going to do a very brief wrap up here. I mean, I think it's been a really great conversation, and it's interesting to try and understand the role of government in this, and it keeps coming up as a role of, not getting in the way, but at the same time playing a role of coordination and ensuring that the right people are at the table and creating the right regulatory environment. We've heard again and again from each of our speakers how porous the environment is, whether it's commerce, healthcare, or education. The walls are just tumbling down, and we're really in a world now where mobility allows that relationship between traditional institutions and the world around us. The role of industry, John Baker's example of the EDGE challenge, this is what industry should be doing, which is providing the incentives for the next generation of applications. And John leads really still relatively a small company, but he's really a role model for what larger companies should be doing in attracting that innovation and supporting it. the change of culture. I think both John Semple and Gary Schwartz indicated how these are really major game changers in the ways that we do business, whether it's healthcare or whether it's in the way that we sell and buy goods. And finally, just to underscore how absolutely critically important collaboration is, post-secondary education, you know, the larger public sector, government and industry, we're not going to get to that next level unless we work together very closely. So thank you very much, panelists. Michael, I think back to you. Enjoy the rest of Discovery.
Thank you, Sarah. That was very interesting and inspirational. It was great to see the dynamics of the whole industry sectors coming together, and really appreciate everybody's time and the questions that came out. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to panelist John Semple. Dr. John Semple, thank you very much for joining us. John Baker, Gary Schwartz, of course, and especially to Sarah to joining us at Discovery and talking about how we can look at taking the next step on a revolutionary action plan for taking Ontario mobile. So going to be working with Martin Lord and providing a gift to everybody that's here. And I just want to share the next session that we're having right here in the IBM Theater is on mobile healthcare futures. That's going to be led by David Farn. So please feel free to remain in your seat or come in and come join us for the next session. So thank you very much, everyone.